Whether you're tuning in live or watching the replay on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever else you might be finding us, welcome to Water Cooler Wednesday. And with Rivka Heisler. Is it Heisler? Heisler?
I pronounce it Heisler.
Heisler. Rivka
Yes.
Heisler. See, this is the type of thing we're supposed to do in the pre-show, but instead I just talk about me. So So welcome, Rivka. We're so glad to have you on here. For those of you who don't know Rivka, and there may be one or two of you out there, it's I was just noting how incredible it is, how many people know and love Rivka. It really is incredible, especially for somebody to move across the country basically in their adult years. And now she lives in my city, Baltimore, and everyone here knows her. That's really a testament to the person she is. But for those one or two of you who do not know her, you are really in for a treat because today we're just going to get to know Rivka's story, and I think it's going to be really helpful for all of you who are interested in culture change and in having an impact on your employee engagement and employee recognition, etc. So Rivka was born and bred in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Got a lot of friends there. Rivka grew up one of 12 children. She's now been living in the greater Baltimore area for about a decade. Originally on a track for a master's in social work, Rivka was rejected from the sole social work school she applied to. And I didn't know if I was supposed to say this, but she put this in the bio she sent me. So Rivka then, which was written by one of her sisters, so maybe this was a good Rivka, Rivka then found herself navigating through a series of jobs and industries before eventually finding herself employed as a secretary of a nursing care facility. It was there that Rivka saw a glaring problem. Employees at her facility who were working long shifts, changing bedpans, working with obstinate patients, were barely getting any recognition for their heroism. Mind completely boggled, Rivka set out to change the world. You can call Rivka the Elon Musk of the employee experience, although maybe not as polarizing. She's taken the industry of employee recognition and turned it on its head. Now, as the director of employee experience, you can find Rivka planning gala events to recognize the hard work of the approximately 5,000 Autumn Lake Healthcare employees who show up day in and day out. But it's not just the gala events. Rivka makes sure that each of the 30 plus facilities she oversees has a plan of action when it comes to making sure that employees are seen. You can find her placing mass orders of glue sticks and Crayola crayons to ensure that each of her employees can send their children to school outfitted with the supplies they need. And she does so much more of that than that. And we're going to get into that in just a second. But thank you, Rivka, so much for coming on today. It's such an honor to have
Thank
somebody
you.
in the trenches who's doing this work every day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
And so I warned Rivka maybe about like 5 minutes ago that we're gonna hop into this. Rivka makes everyone feel seen. I love that, Chava. I love the idea of being seen. It's not just being recognized, but being seen. I love that, and it's so true about you, Rivka. So, but before about 5 minutes ago, I warned Rivka that we were gonna do a 6 and 60, a six questions, rapid fire questions to be answered within 60 seconds of all of them. And I warned her that if she doesn't get them all done in 60 seconds, the show ends right then. No,
We're
it doesn't. It would be, it's totally cool. If she does get them all in 60 seconds, she'll be like maybe the third person to ever do it. So no pressure on you for that. But before that, I wanted to take a quick second to celebrate our 40th episode here at the water cooler.
It's
This is
very exciting.
it's such a
Congratulations.
cool milestone. And we're so excited to have you here to celebrate this with us. If this is the first water cooler you've seen, or if you started watching, tuning into water coolers maybe a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, etc., you can catch up with all of our 40 episodes by going to this link. You can hover your phone right over this QR code. It'll take you to our YouTube playlist of Water Cooler Wednesday. Please, when you're there, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Sorry for that plug, Rivka. But,
No, I think it's
uh-oh,
great. I'm excited.
I started a timer early, but just for good measure, one
All
more
the
confetti.
confetti. I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so, Rivka, are you ready for the 6 and 60?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's jump right in. Yes.
All right, here we go. What is one thing from the pandemic that you would like to see stick around for a long time?
I think within my profession, just being there for anyone and anyone, no matter what, no matter who you are in the company, you're there.
When you're feeling overwhelmed or burned out, what do you do to reset and recharge?
Get out in nature.
Oh, great. People are often shocked when I tell them that I have 5 kids. You're one of 12. For question 3 and 4, what's the best and what's the most challenging thing about growing up with 11 siblings?
Oh my gosh. Best part is that they are my very best friends. Love them. And the most challenging part, I think that it's a good question. Wait for my book on that.
And the best piece of advice or wisdom you've ever received?
Be yourself.
And final question, in 5 words or less, what's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life. Huh. Um, I think I think hope.
Love that. That's
Yeah.
that's a rapid fire question. Maybe
Rapid
maybe it
fire.
shouldn't be, but that's a rapid
I
fire
know.
question.
I feel like that
You
takes
did
yeah.
that one's there just for all those people who get too confident when they're running
Okay.
ahead of time. Then that one always throws them. But but hope. I love that. I love that answer. And I also love that presumably one of your siblings jumped in and said, "Watch it," when asked you about your what the best and worst part of being one of 12 was.
Oh,
So
so
love it. So in our discussion today, I really want to learn about your journey on the water cooler. Being our 40th episode, we have talked to so many experts in terms of active researchers, academics, consultants, speakers, authors, etc. A lot of what we do in those categories is this theoretical conjecture. We walk in, we fix the problem, we get out, we tell
mm,
you what you should be doing, and sometimes don't fully grasp the challenges of the messy real world. That's why I was so excited to welcome you on to talk about somebody who did this from within the trenches before you published that book, so that we could get your perspective on what it means to really do this from the inside. Um,
mhm.
so so I guess let's start from the beginning. You moved to Baltimore. I guess that's the beginning-ish that we'll start with, right? You moved to Baltimore and you start hopping around for jobs because, as your sister says, you couldn't get into your social work school. I'm sorry. I'm sure they would take you now, but but you start hopping around from job to job. What did you learn during that experience? What did you take away from that experience? And why did you keep moving
Mhm.
instead of like planting your feet somewhere before you eventually did?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do after I had finished college. Lots of folks told me, "You're a great listener. You should be a social worker." And I was like, "Okay, let's try that." I really wasn't confident. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Um, And so after I got rejected from that master's program, I just started trying things. I tried teaching in a preschool. I worked in a school office. Um, I worked for a fleet management company. I drove for Lyft. A really interesting job was I don't know if there's an actual title for this, but I delivered, um, when a person has to put down a pet, oftentimes they'll do it at home, um, so that it's more of a more pleasant experience for the family and for the pet, not in like some sterile vet office. And so I was the person who would deliver the ashes, the paw prints afterwards to the family in a comforting kind of a way. And I am actually not really a animal person so much. So I kind of had to, kind of lean into that, and it was interesting. But I did a whole bunch of different things, and I think that for me, I loved just learning people's stories, listening to what they've been through, talking with them, hearing their stories, where they've come from, what they've been through, their struggles. Like that was really, really interesting to me. Eventually, I took a job as a secretary at a nursing facility. Um, their admissions director was out one day and then had to leave unexpectedly. So they asked me if I'd step in. I ended up taking the position, and learned everything that I know about the nursing home industry from that company. And I'm so grateful, to them for that. Um, just skipping ahead quickly, I was then approached by a different company, King David Rehab, um, which is actually owned by Autumn Lake, for whom I work for now. I became their hospital liaison, and I spoke with families, residents, community members, just speaking about, what services we provide, and just really talking them through that process, answering questions, ensuring that the care was top notch throughout. But then COVID hit, and it was crazy. It was really, really crazy. We could no longer admit patients. We were on an admission ban. I couldn't go into the hospitals and speak with the case management teams and with the patients. So I was basically like, all right, cool. I'm out of a job. Like, I don't actually know what's going to be next. Um, so I just started doing things for the staff in our facilities. In our facility, I was just at King David at that time. They were working so hard. They're in the PPE, which was hot, sweaty, and gross. Um, Patients popping positive every other day. We had to move patients, which means for people who are not in the nursing care industry, moving beds, moving all of their stuff, but in an infection controlled manner. Like it was a lot. It was a lot. That's my sister. Okay. Um, one of them. Um, so there was just so much going on, and morale was definitely taking a hit. So I just took it upon myself, and every day we'd do something different, whether it was a fun snack like ice cold Mountain Dews. Thank you so much for everything that you do as they walk out the door. Or we would do like different, like a barbecue outside, obviously COVID friendly. So many different things. I did like a pizza tailgate party at the hospital. Um, just to try and listen, it didn't fix the problem, but it said, hey, we see you, we value all the time and the effort that you're putting in, and here's a little something. Um, and the higher ups in the company kind of saw that, and they were like, hey, we value this and we need this across the company. And that's where I am now.
Okay, there's a lot there. So I'm going to take you back to something that you just sort of yada yada through because I,
Okay.
I think that it's really significant. And maybe it's not, and we could just move on. But you were talking about bringing people the ashes of their pets. And as a lifetime dog owner and dog lover, I used to be pre veterinary until I realized that I had to pass physics and organic chemistry, and then suddenly
Mm,
psychology looked a lot more appealing. But so you're not a dog person.
no.
You don't get it. But you said something like, "But I had to something." I forget exactly what your words were, right? But you're recognizing that you didn't understand it in the sense that it wasn't your thing, but you still were there for them. To me, this sounds like a lesson in empathy and a
Hmm.
lesson that a lot of people don't get. And I would argue that a lot of people in leadership positions, they can't even make the leap to understand their employees who are doing the work for them, like for their
Hmm.
facility. Here you are, as somebody who's never owned an animal yet or a dog, right?
Yeah.
And no interest in it. And here are people who are mourning a pet like it's a child. And
Hmm.
so what is that for you? How did you find that place of empathy? How did you relate to them? Was that a struggle or did it come naturally? And what does that look like?
Yeah, that's such a great point. I think that I naturally am a compassionate person. Um, But I did need to take a minute in the car and just kind of put myself in that place, before walking up to their home and delivering, the ashes. Just kind of understanding where they're coming from, what this meant to them. Um, Obviously I couldn't understand it 100%, but just coming from that sensitive place, and like you made that parallel with employers and their employees, we have no idea what employees are dealing with in their daily life. No idea. Every now and again, we'll get a glimpse, of a GoFundMe. This actually just happened recently. One of our employees asked for some help to raise some money for their child's monument at the cemetery. And she had been putting in extra shifts and working crazy hard. And, it wasn't something she was really comfortable asking for help with, but she had mentioned it to a different coworker. We heard about it. We jumped on that right away. Like, if we know that our employees are struggling, we want to help out. So I guess back to what you said, just really trying to um, understand where the employee is coming from, what they're dealing with on their day to day lives. I think it's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, and that I love that example because the employee did not come directly to you. And
Right.
so, and oftentimes they won't. And I often say, like, even if you have an open door policy, that doesn't mean anything if people don't feel comfortable walking through that door. And
Hmm.
so, a lot of times leaders say, yeah, come to me with whatever you need, and I'll be there for you. And people don't because either they don't believe them, or they have too much pride, or
Hmm.
they're too embarrassed, or feel it, whatever they might be feeling that's creating a barrier to them walking through that door. But
Hmm.
this goes back to this idea of being seen. You really need to have your ear to the ground to be looking for the opportunities in order to make that happen.
Hmm.
So in the beginning, you were seeing these things, but to fast forward, and then we'll go back, but to fast forward to overseeing how many facilities?
34.
34 facilities. Um, what happens then? How, like, does it, isn't that then a struggle that you get to that point where it's just like a small business owner who suddenly hires their 100, 200, 300th employee, and suddenly there's no way they can manage everybody's stuff, right? And know to ask about this person's son and this person's mother as they pass them. What happens when you start approaching that breaking point for you, Rivka? Did that happen? Did you feel like you were grasping at that original magic? What did you have to do in order to keep it going?
Yeah. I would say it's definitely challenging because that is my passion. That is what I when I walk into a facility, I pride myself on, oh yeah, I knew like most of the people that I walk by today. I know that that one's having a dental procedure and this one has an anniversary. But definitely as we've grown, you know, I'm only one person, right? And so I can't I can't have the same connections like I had in the past. What we've done is we've created committees at each of our facilities. We meet once a month. Anyone and everyone is invited, you know, and so that's an opportunity where they can come to get to know me. I can get to know them. I walk the halls, you know, and try and still have that face to face contact. Even just looking an employee in the face, you know, they're let's say it's a dietary aide handing out lunches, just looking at them in the eye and saying, "Thank you so much. Like you are doing a great job." Some of them start crying,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, just that acknowledgement is huge. Um, but it definitely is a challenge for me. I think that as a company grows, it's something that you know isn't something that can come as easily, but it's definitely something that I still try and I try and be intentional about. Something that I learned actually from the COO of the company, his name is Mark Schwartz, and something that I really look up to about him is that he's very hands on. He's walking through facilities and he knows the nursing assistants by name and he knows what's going on, you know, and there's that relationship there. And I think that's what makes one of the things that makes our company really special.
That's really great. Nakama says, "Rockstar sis, always trying to understand the person." That's awesome. It seems like you really do. And if I could follow this path for a second, your comment about just saying thank you and really looking at the individual and them sometimes breaking into tears as a result of that, you are the queen of the puns. You constantly are doing these rollouts of different gifts and you work these puns into it and I love those things and I can imagine they have such an impact. However, we also often talk about in when we're talking about employee engagement, like the proverbial pizza party, right?
Yep.
Like throw them a
Yep.
pizza party and now like everything's great. And of course, those things are nice, but they also can sometimes seem transactional in nature to an
Hmm.
extent. Um, but here you're talking about something that costs $0. Just looking at someone and saying thank you and the power of that. And I'm
Hmm.
wondering if you could speak to sort of the balance that you found between these other things, these events, and the less tangible things that you do and the deeper things that you do, like greeting somebody by name, looking at them and saying thank you, like jumping in because you overhear that somebody needs money for a monument. Like these types of things are so powerful as well. What place do all of these things have? And maybe to piggyback on that, anticipating part of your answer, um, how much does the execution of these things matter? Like the tone of it, how it's done. There's a way to throw a pizza party, and then there's a way to throw a pizza party. From
100%.
what I've seen, could you speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, there's no one answer for employee engagement and appreciation, right? I think that well, it goes hand in hand, right? So, um, pizza parties are great, but if it's just a pizza slapped on the table with a sign that says, uh, you know, no matter how we slice it, we love you,
Love
like
it.
that's
I knew you would
great.
come up with one.
But
Yep.
I do, Google helps me out a lot. I'm not that creative. Um, but I would say, it's all in the presentation. It's all in the sensitivity. It's not like, hey, we got you lunch today. Could you please pull a double? No, that's not what it's about. It's you're doing hard work. Our employees caring for such a vulnerable population, dealing with families who are concerned about their loved ones. Um, it's a lot. It's a really, really hard. um, industry. It's a hard industry. Um, but I would say it goes hand in hand, with the administrators, with the directors of the departments really um, acting in a way of gratitude, I think goes hand in hand with all the fun things that we do. And they're not always food things. There's competitions, there's dress ups, our Halloween carving this year was out of the park. Gingerbread contest was crazy. So we'll do those kinds of things. But then we do like the larger scale events where we include their families because they're part of it also, right? When their mom's working late hours, when their dad comes home super tired, like we want the kids, the spouses to feel part of that as well. Our first event post COVID was we rented out Six Flags for all of our employees and their families. And it was just like, it literally gave me chills as the employees are walking in. Some of them cannot afford to bring their child to an amusement park and they get to do anything and everything, no one had to say no that day to their children. And that was one of the highlights that one of the employees was telling me about. But I think that we try and do lots of things. And I'm always telling our employees, like, brainstorm with me, talk to me about what appreciation looks like for you.
Love it.
We're not the type that we sit up in some corporate office and say, like, this is how you're going to feel appreciated, like,
Mhm.
you tell us. You want an award ceremony? We do that once a year, with our employee of the month program. Words, yummy luncheons, thank you cards. We have so many different ways that we can show appreciation, and we're always open to feedback too. So I think that's really important, getting down to our employees level and just having conversations.
Right. Yeah. A lot of good points there. You're throwing out so many good points that it's like very difficult for me. I've got like 5 questions from every answer you give. So I think that's a sign that you're doing awesome. Rivka understands the relate, revise to revive process. I love that. And
Huh.
you were just talking about relating that and that you're going and bringing people into the process, that you're not just dictating what engagement looks like, what recognition looks like, etc. So
Yeah.
okay, I made a short little list here. One
Okay.
thing is this. Okay, so I was working with an organization within your industry that I was interviewing a couple people, and what they were all saying, they had nothing good to say about the CNAs, right? The certified nursing assistants or whatever, right?
Mhm.
They had nothing good. They just come here for the paycheck and then they just leave. They don't care. They're always on their phone. They come in and then as soon as they're like they'll quit and just like not show up one day and never come back, etc. And so because of that, the organization saw no value in investing in these individuals. But here's where the catch 22 comes into play, right? Because if you're not investing in them, of course you're going to get those results. But then when you don't see those, when you see those sorts of results or sorts of actions, it makes the organization say we should put our money into people who are more valuable, who cost more to replace, who are more reliable and will stick around when we get them, etc. What's broken about this way of thinking? When you entered, was there an element of having to break that cycle? Did that cycle exist and that you had to break, or was that not really a thing within your
Yeah,
facility?
so it's interesting. Right now in the nursing industry, there is a shortage. We definitely have a shortage, and we do have to use agencies for geriatric nursing assistants and for nurses. Although we are cutting back, and through our programming, we've seen a tremendous growth. Of employees staying on with us because they feel that family feeling, they feel that appreciation. Um, I think that the more you invest in your employees, the more you see them and you actually show them that you value them, they're going to stay. They're going to stay. It's not just about the paycheck at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah.
Is my
And
feeling.
they feel seen. So then it
Yeah.
doesn't feel comfortable to disappear when you feel seen. If you already feel
Right.
like you're invisible, then when you're just done with the job, of course, just don't show up. You're invisible anyway. So the fact
Right.
that people
Right.
are seen makes a huge difference. And by the way, regarding that shortage, uh, if you are looking to work for this incredible organization, you're also like the official uh, long-term care nursing home. What do you go as the official?
We're the official long-term care partner of the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes,
It's
that's
really
kind of
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can promise you skybox seats, but if you do apply and get the job and say that you found this link on Water Cooler Wednesday, then you could tell them that David said that you get skybox seats. I'm not guaranteeing that, but you could tell them that I said
Yeah, if
that.
you actually go for an interview at any of our centers, we have some really awesome Raven swag that you can get just for going for an interview.
Wow.
And then last season, what we did with the Ravens is we did this really cool sweepstakes raffle for all of our employees who showed great attendance, like
Yeah.
less latenesses and things like that. They got raffles to box seats, which is really cool.
Uh-huh.
So that was
That's
super,
cool.
super fun. Yeah.
That is awesome. So,
Yeah.
okay. Here's the other question that I thought about when you were talking, and just the person that you are. Like I said in the beginning of this, you're extremely popular. You are the type of person that can empathize and can communicate with people throughout the organization. And sometimes you don't find that. Often I tell people, I try to encourage them to promote change, sort of be the change, be the change you
Mhm.
want to see in the world, be the change you want to see within your organization, right?
Right.
From wherever you are on the org chart. It doesn't matter. Like your work culture, begins and ends with you. You are as critical toward and important for that work culture, important piece to that work culture as anybody else in the organization. But the problem is, how do we sell up when I don't have the authority, when I don't have the legitimate spot, the legitimate job title?
Mhm.
How am I supposed to start having an impact or changing the culture in a positive way, etc.? Your story is so beautiful because you came in filling in for someone and ended up where you are now. But the activities, the focus on engagement, those things didn't start now. You started seeing people then, and you saw the
Mhm.
problem then. How does somebody without the title, without the authority, without the leadership role on the org chart, if they see a problem, if they see something that they want to see be changed for the better within their work culture, how do they get that done? How did you get that done and sell it up the chain so that
Mhm.
people saw the value in what you were asking from them or what you were doing?
Mhm. Great question. I think that, when I first started, it wasn't a goal for me. I never dreamt that I would be in this position ever. It wasn't a goal for me. Um, but I saw the importance. The care of the residents went up when the employees felt seen, heard, valued. And if those people who are watching who don't have, a committee in your center that you can join and kind of, come together with like-minded people who are positive and supportive and want to change, the status quo of the workplace, I would say, yeah, you literally just start with yourself. Start saying good morning. Start paying attention to the people around you and see them for who they are You know what I mean? You can't change the world. You can't. You can just work on your little circle around you, and then hopefully it'll make a ripple effect. I don't think that, you know, if you set out with this huge goal of I want to change the culture of my company, I don't think that's hard to do alone. You need a committee, you need support, you need a team behind you. But I think that, for that one person who might feel kind of lonely in their company and want to build for the better, I would say, yeah, start with the people right around you and just spread your positive vibes, because I think that, you can't change the world by yourself. You can't. And that being said, I just spearhead this, but in each of my facilities, I have a whole group of people who are the cheerleaders as well, So I don't think it's a one man or woman show.
Wow. That love
Yeah.
everything you said. How it needs to start with you. I hear you talking about building a team, building a coalition, like that joint
Coalition. Love
minded
that. Yes.
people, right? And then I would argue as a third thing, what are the core values of Autumn Lake? Like, did you come in and start doing these things and they said, no, 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 we value productivity over people? Is that what they said to you?
That's a
Or
great question. Autumn Lake Healthcare, it's a younger company, right? And so they are open to new ideas. And, there's a quote I saw one time, like, this is the way it's always been, and that's like the worst mindset to ever have. They are open. They want to hear new ideas. And so, like, the fact that I work for a company that has a position, director of employee engagement, like, they value this. It's mind-boggling to me. Like, we held our holiday party at the M&T Bank Stadium with over 4,000 employees.
wow,
It was crazy. I mean, there was a red carpet, the Ravens marching band. Our employees felt like $1 million walking in.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's what it's about, Like, this company cares, but, like, actually cares. I think that word is thrown around a lot. Um, so, yeah, of course, we have our mission statement and our core values, and obviously, resident care is at number one. But I believe that if our employees feel 100% valued, seen, and heard, the care goes up 1,000%. So, it's really win-win for everybody.
love it.
Yeah.
Rivka, we love you. You're a constant inspiration to everyone.
Aw.
Rachel. So
Thank
that's
you.
that's first of all, this is episode number 40. I've never seen all the comments that come in be compliments of the guest as opposed to questions and things like that. I mean, this speaks to the person that you are, obviously, and
Well,
also
if
how many
anyone has
loving siblings
questions,
you have.
I know. They're probably all my siblings.
Not true. But but so this is not a gotcha question, but it is something that always, like, it's something that I always wonder about. Um so 4,000 people at M&T Bank looked incredible. You all look like a bunch of celebrities. Who's at the facilities working during that time? Like, how do you
Great question.
figure that out? Yeah.
Great question. So that's something that I struggle with, because any big event that we put on, our responsibility, number one, is providing top-notch care for our residents. And so we're a 24/7 operation. So for things like renting out Six Flags and the state fair and things like that, whatever nurses and employees had to work that day, we'd provide tickets for them to go another day. Um, so, not everyone is always able to join, which is sad. That being said, the night of the holiday party, we did use more agency, nurses and techs, so that everyone who wanted to come was able to. Not everyone, wanted to be there
Right.
or could be there. We have facilities out on the Eastern Shore, so it's a really long drive, so we had a
Right.
little party out there for them. And some people don't like loud music. So there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
But that is a good question and a valid one.
And again, back to the individualization and to talking to your employees. A lot of times we jump in and make these assumptions like everybody loves a great big party. And like you're saying, some people don't like big parties. Like it's just not their thing.
Right.
So that's something to always be mindful of when you're doing these sorts of things, which is also why it's so great that you do so many different things. But really important question. Miriam wants to know who's your favorite sister?
She'll have to wait for my book on that.
Yeah, Miriam, you should have gotten to me before. I would have put it in the 6 and 60 questions. Um, it would have been too fast. You would have had to answer it quick. And Tamar says, I'm not a sibling and I love Rivka. I'm learning so much.
Oh, that's great.
Rivka is the blood of all parties.
Oh my God.
Is that good to be the blood of a party? I've never heard
I
that expression,
don't
but
know. I
either
don't
really
know.
dramatic or really good, or
He's
both.
from Arizona, so they might be
It's an Arizona thing. So, okay, so you've got these events. Not everybody can make it to every event. You were just talking about at the end of the day, this is about the patients, right? And you're showing appreciation for the care that we're putting into the patients. This is also an industry that historically and especially now is suffering from so much burnout. One of the things I could see as potential pushback on these sorts of activities are we've got work to do and we don't have enough people. We're understaffed. We don't have enough people to do the work. And now you want to pull all these people out of the facility for these things or into the break room for different things or etc. And to the individuals themselves often when I've got too much, I can't breathe, and now you want me to sit on a committee and do this and that. Sometimes, the path to hell is laid with good intentions, right?
Mhm.
That we do these things and it has the opposite impact because we're just doing too much, etc. How do you, um, I guess, pay heed to that? Is that something that you do see and consider, or
Yeah, of
what's
course,
that?
of course. So every facility is really different, and that's something that I pay a lot of attention to. Each one has its own flavor, its own demographic, its own feel. So some facilities that go Arizona, that's funny. Some facilities I'll walk into, they've got a code that's being called. They've got 911. There's, we'll reschedule our meeting. I know that for myself and all the employees know patient care is number one, right? We can always reschedule our meetings. We'll do it another time. No worries. Um, I make our meetings exciting. We bring yummy food. We have giveaways. So we try and make it something that the employees want to be part of. There are ambassadors, for the facility. Um, I would say there is burnout. There is it's a lot of work caring for patients. It's not something that it's not a desk job. It is not a desk job, and I'm just thinking through my head now of some of our different facilities and their specific situations. And, some we're still working with and trying to figure out a good rhythm for, getting our committee, meeting on a regular basis. Some facilities, like I walk in there and it's a party and they've got coverage for their unit and, but we've really, really seen growth across the board, which has been really great. But I would say it's a valid point. It's a valid point. And I definitely understand. And this industry is about the residents. They are definitely number one, and patient care always comes first. And if people are too busy that day, I'm cool. I don't need to walk in with a badge and be like, all right, guys, we're having our, compliance about employee engagement today. We're pretty chilled. Um, but we definitely make it a priority. So
Yeah,
uh, it's a
it's a
good point.
priority, but you're flexible, and I
Of course.
think that's a great combination.
Yeah.
So along the way, through today, but also as you were sort of creating this, you were becoming who you are today, and your organization was becoming who it is today because of you. Throughout that whole process, were there moments or people or events that where you ran into resistance, pushback and resistance against this? If so, what did that look like, and how did you manage that resistance?
Hmm. It's a good question. I'm thinking of one example right now where we were we I think it was National Popcorn Day at a facility, and we were there with the popcorn machine and trying to have a good time and give out popcorn, and one of the employees just kind of like rolled her eyes as she walked out. Um, and I was like, okay, like must have been a hard shift, but she did take some popcorn. She did take
Huh.
some. Um, and then I was there the next month and we were doing a barbecue. And I got to talk with her a little bit. And she actually said to me, she's like, the first couple of times that you guys did stuff, I was like, really, a Laffy Taffy, like a lollipop?
Mm.
Like, I don't need that from you. Thank you so much. She's like, but then I saw that like you guys were consistent and like it wasn't just a random Laffy Taffy and it wasn't a random barbecue and a dress, like there was consistency, and that's what spoke to her. So there definitely was a little bit of pushback there, and I believe that it happens in every facility. But we stay constant. We're in this for the long haul, and we're not just trying to put band-aids on things. So that's one example of what I can think of right now. My company is fantastic. I mean, like they don't they, anything I any kind of effort or program that I want to try, they're like, go for it. They're excited and supportive, which I really appreciate, and it makes my job like very much easier because they're so supportive. Um, so I'm grateful for that.
and
Yeah.
and and that's amazing to be working for an organization that really embraces this, because that's not um super common, and when it does happen, it's oftentimes a little bit misguided in terms of how it's actualized, and also how um, the intent behind it and things feel too transactional, which is kind of what this individual was pointing to, it sounds like,
Mhm.
right? That,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, like I'd rather you give me a bump in my pay than spend this money
Exactly.
on popcorn, right? And
Mhm.
and I totally get that, especially within the context of where we are today, because cynicism is one of the three major symptoms of burnout. And as you said, nationally, internationally, burnout is at its highest levels it's ever been. And
Mhm.
so we do have a cynical workforce. I remember speaking to my master's IO psychology students. So these are
Mhm.
people getting into organizational psychology, learning about motivation, etc. I remember when they all rolled their eyes one day when I mentioned something about, when work feels like family. Like the entire class in unison rolled their eyes. It used to be we could say that and people would believe it and buy in and whatever. Nobody buys that anymore. They don't want to be told, they want to be shown, right?
Mhm.
And so that consistency that you've been putting in place has, and then also the way that um, that your uh, that your company has put their stamp of approval on it via putting you into this position, right? They are endorsing it, very literally endorsing it by endorsing you.
Mhm.
I think that that's so powerful. In it says so much more than you can ever say with a bag of popcorn, right?
100%.
But in terms
100%.
of it being resistance, there is this feeling that when we reach out to employees and we try to recognize them and we try to engage them, and we're met with cynicism, it's hard not to take that personal, and it's
Mhm.
hard not to say see, this stuff is useless anyway. And our negativity bias kicks in. So that night, that person was probably the only person you thought about, as opposed to all the people who loved it, right? And so, and so it's hard. And so we become jaded over time, and we start working toward the least common denominator. We
Hmm.
start working toward the people who game the system, or the people who don't appreciate anything we're doing, etc., instead of keep on moving forward. So, how did you and how can others sort of keep moving forward beyond those sources of cynicism, resistance, and those
Hmm.
roadblocks that you hit?
Hmm. Yeah, this comes up a lot. I'll get calls from like HR directors or folks on our committee, and they'll be like, "Yeah, this one said that, and this one just didn't even wasn't interested." And I always remind them, I'm like, "Was that one or two people, or was that everybody?" You know, and just really trying to be there to support them. You know,
Right,
um, and I always remind them in the meetings, like you're gonna be met with the negative Nancy's. We all have them,
right,
Um, it is hard. It's biting, because you're out there and you have the best intentions in mind, right? Um, but I would say just keep doing what you're doing, just keep strong at it. It's about the long term, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint.
right.
It's not about the popcorn today, but it's about the multiple things that we're doing this year. Maybe they'll buy into one or two of them, Um, I think it's definitely about the long term goal.
Right.
That's what
Yeah,
I would say.
and
Yeah.
keeping that focus and setting goals. Do you set goals? Like, do you measure this stuff? Like,
It's
what
very
do you
hard to
measure?
measure.
Yeah,
It's very hard to measure because what kind of data can you collect? After we do large scale events, I definitely send out a questionnaire. What did you enjoy? What can we do better?
right,
To get that feedback for the next
right,
large event that we'll do. And we definitely take that into account. But with the smaller scale events, it's walking around the facility, it's schmoozing with the chef, it's talking with the janitor, with the maintenance guys, with the nurses, like what's
right.
going on, like just getting in their heads, understanding their worlds, and just really hearing how they feel appreciated
Yeah,
is the truth. I think it's really at the end of the day, it's just about seeing people and listening to them and really hearing them.
yeah. That's really powerful. And then I guess you have engagement surveys. Do you do engagement surveys or pulse surveys?
Yeah,
Like
so that's once a year as well. Yep.
that's kind
Yeah.
of that's helpful. Although,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
depending on the situation. So okay, so we're not going to get there because it's already 11:54. But um,
Wow.
I can't believe we have to wrap this up already. Your story is so inspiring. And I think that there's a lot that people can take away from this. I want to make sure that people are able to reach out to you if they hold their phone over your QR code. They can contact you directly via LinkedIn, and we're also going to throw up that QR code again. The one on top of my head, this mirrored thing is really weird. Um, but if for all of you who want to connect with me, but I highly recommend that you reach out and connect with Rivka, connect with both of us, and I'm gonna throw up that QR code again for anyone looking for work, or maybe even just to go in and explore it and get some Ravens gear in the process, as we
100%.
said. But before I do that, I was wondering what, like, one parting piece of advice you might have for, we've talked about the people in your position, right? The people from within the ranks who are trying to make a difference. What about from leadership? Like, how can leadership best embrace and make use of and find the Rivka Heislers in their organization?
I think to really get to know your employees, get to know them and listen. Like really listen to them, have a real conversation. When you pass them in the hall and just like, morning, good afternoon, that's very nice. But um, just really get to know them. There's some really incredible employees that are for sure in your companies that you don't even know exist.
Mm.
Um, I'm constantly floored with stories that I learn about from our employees, what they've been through, what they've done, the connections that they have with residents who have passed away, how they've stayed connected with families. There's just such a richness there that I think that a lot of leadership might miss out on and can take advantage of. Definitely.
Love it. Love it. Get to know your
Yeah.
people. Get out of your office. Don't welcome them into yours.
Get
Do
out
that,
of the
but don't
office.
rely on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing.
Amazing.
And
All right.
when you say how are you, maybe say it with a different intonation and then pause so that people might feel safe to actually tell you as
Right.
opposed to just a greeting. Yeah.
Right. Look at them in the eye and wait for their response.
Yeah.
Listen to their response. Yeah. Simple things, but they make a very large difference for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
I
so much
know
for the
I want to
opportunity.
work. I
Thank
know
you.
I want to work there. I'll be in to fill out an application later today. No, um, but it sounds like just an amazing place. It's really about their people and their mission, and that their mission is really all of their people. I think it's incredible what you've done there, and I think it's such a testament to any organization that embraces that sort of leadership from within, and that they have embraced and endorsed the things that you're doing. I think is an incredible statement of who they are as an organization. So if you're interested in potentially seeking a career with Autumn Lake, you can use your telephone and hover, open the camera, hover right over that QR code right in the middle of us, and that will take you right to the website where you can apply. So I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you, Rivka. This was everything I hoped it would be and more. And by the messages in the chat, I think that people agree. Just so much love in the chat, and it's so cool to see that. So thank you so much for that.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you for this opportunity. And if anyone ever has any questions, I'm happy to, connect. And thank you again.
Thank you. And just a quick plug if you missed this, last week we went live with the Work Culture Debates, which is a brand new show. It's a panel discussion and debate featuring four IO psychology work culture consultants from very diverse backgrounds with very diverse thoughts on work culture. If you missed our first episode, that QR code, I promise I'll be done with the QR codes after this. But if you hover over that QR code, it will take you to the Work Culture Debates LinkedIn page. Please follow us there. Link to us, whatever it's called. Ring a bell. Is there a bell? I don't know. Whatever you need to do to get all of our updates, see our live and recorded content throughout the months. We have our second episode coming up on, I believe it's the third Monday of every month. So the third Monday of this month, we'll be coming to you live again. So check that out. Thank you so much, Rivka. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank all of you for tuning in today, and we will see you next time.